Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, this is part 2 of my Revert story at last. Got a little bit sidetracked due to recent events that you might be aware of or you might not. Just go and look at the last few videos that I've posted on this channel. Now I'm going to continue from the last episode where I spoke about my first memory. So I come from quite a big family, sibling wise. There was 11 of us, including stepbrothers and half brothers and whatnot. And carrying on from like my first memory was spoke about in my last episode. I was about five probably when that happened. And I mean, my younger years, I mean, let me start by saying, right, that I love every member of my family differently because they are all very different, yeah. My mum, bless her, she done her best. Trying to raise 7 kids, which is what we had in the household, you know, pretty much single-handedly, she done it as well. I can't fault her too much, you know. I had a happy childhood, did. You know, we grew up in a time where you could go out and play outside on the estate, and as long as you was home by the time it was dark, you know, all the kids on the estate, there was no phones, there was no computers. Yeah, we used to draw lines on the floor in chalk and try and follow it while we was hiding. You know, it was a nice childhood. I can't fault it too much. I mean, the estate we grew up on wasn't the best, you know, there was bad times and good times. But my younger years, I can't really fault it too much. Where things started to go wrong for me, looking back, was in school. So I suffer with dyslexia, so my handwriting is still very, very childlike. My spelling's not good, as people love to point out. And my reading's not, like, I can read, like, if I'm reading in my head, I'm fine. But, like, if you've got dyslexia, sometimes when you look at words, like, even just a couple of letters might be back to front. It happens. Sometimes you need to reset. Now, in a classroom environment, if a teacher's asking you to read something out, or a teacher's asking you to come and write something on the board, and you don't, and you suffer with dyslexia, it's a lot more comfortable to do something stupid, to get kicked out or be rude to a teacher, as opposed to going up and doing something where potentially everyone could laugh at you and it can be quite embarrassing. So, I mean, dyslexia in my time wasn't something really that anyone cared about. It was like, come on, get on with it, pretty much. So I feel like anyone with dyslexia in my time, I can't speak on what it's like now, but it was pretty much like just let slide through the gap. And instead of people sort of thinking, why is this kid misbehaving? Why is this kid doing that? It was just, oh, you're a problem child. And due to that, I got kicked out of a few schools. The first high school that I went to was Whitmore High School in South Harrow. Don't know if anyone knows it. I got kicked out of there fairly quickly. I remember on the open day, where you go from your middle school, you have one day in your high school before the end of the year prior to you going. And I had a fight that first day because I thought I was Charlie Big Potatoes, yeah. And when you think you're Charlie Big Potatoes in your school and you go to high school and you've got Charlie Big Potatoes from 4 or 5 different middle schools all coming, all wanting to be the man, there's bound to be clashes. So I remember having an altercation with someone on that day, and funnily enough, we actually become really good friends when that first year started. We wasn't good for each other. We ended up getting kicked out of Whitmore, and it's really, really bad actually, because we set a fire in the skip, and there was 3 of us that got seen, me, the guy who had the fight, who turned out to be good friends, and another guy who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And because none of us spoke out or said anything when we got called in, we all got kicked out. I feel really sorry for the third party involved because he didn't actually do anything. And after that, it was a while before I went to my second high school. And during that period, I stayed at that particular friend's house for a long time. I think it was about a 3-month period where I didn't even go home. And as far as my mum was aware, we were safe and everything was okay, and I just didn't want to come home. You know, when you grow up in a house with that many siblings, it's quite easy to slip through the net, I guess. And I saw some stuff in that house what kids shouldn't see. You know, I saw the other kid's dad, who wasn't there when I first started staying there. I think he'd just come out of prison halfway through I was staying there. I see him come round and kick the crap out of the mum. My friend tried to stop it, and the dad turned around and started kicking him as well. And he had a little brother, and because that he was so frustrated that he couldn't help his mum, he ended up coming into the room where me and his little brother were hiding, basically, and just started tearing into his little brother as well. And that was where cannabis came into my life at that age, 12, 13 years old. And it was an everyday thing, smoking weed at that age. Like I say, after my time there, I did get accepted into another school. The second school I went to was Revert. And again, I had the same problems there. You know, I didn't want to embarrass myself at times when being asked to do things, and it was a lot easier just to get kicked out of the class. You know, you can be I wouldn't say I was a horrible kid. I was like a joker. I was the classroom joker. I wasn't an evil kid. I wasn't malicious, really. I mean, there's probably some people who would object to that, because there was some people that was probably a lot smaller and weaker than me that I took advantage of. And if any of them are watching this, I deeply apologise. I mean, I didn't last long in that school either. I got kicked out of there. Me and my friend who was smoking weed together at the house, he came to that school as well. And we started sort of just going around and just taxing kids in younger years. You know, as soon as we got to year 9 and there was year 8s in there, we were just taxing kids. We would get sort of £5. I'd go and get £5 off of some kids. He'd go and get £5. We had £10. We'd go and buy, you know, there was an estate called Rains Lane Estate, and there was someone on there who used to sell like little £5 or £7 bags of Thai weed. And we used to just get enough to get that, get a couple of fags, get a Rizla, get a drink, and then we'd go and sit at his house, and that was it. And we got away with that for a long time. And then it wasn't until, I think year 10, I think it was year 10, and we was doing it to year 8s then, and they must have gone home and been telling their mums, and we got called into the office one day, and I remember me and my mum sitting in the office, and I remember them saying, well, how do you feel about these kids that you've taken the money off? And I thought I was so bad. I was like, well, give me the name of the kids. Give me the name of the kids, and I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go around and I'll do it to them again. And I remember my mum being really upset, and then that was it. I wasn't allowed back to that school. Then I went to somewhere called